So, so what I'm going to present today, there are many our experiences from Gainsight perspective. Obviously, want to let you know these are all forward-looking statements, and we have to differ your own judgment based on how you see your business. A brief agenda. I'm going to focus mainly on companies who are into SaaS business or subscription. How we look at things evolving, and currently due to also maybe touch upon a bit what COVID has done, the pandemic. It's we believe that it has basically changed and fast tracked the way we were looking at customer success. So if you look at the history of how we have in ancient times, in 1900s, with Ford, DuPont, that was really the age of manufacturing. And fast forward, last 2 decades, the age of distribution. I mean, things changed the way just in time came in from Toyota, or the way supply chain and distribution worked with Walmart. And then came the internet buzz in the last decade with Amazon, Google, Comcast, and so many other great companies, coming into play. And even today, we call it the age of customer, because the balance of power has shifted from vendors to customers. And why, we call, another term we use here is the great inversion. In the past, there were so many customers, and vendors were center of the universe, and the world has changed. It's the other way around now. In the SaaS, customers have lots of choices. There are so many products, and this has led to a lot of choices ever than before. And the way the virtuous cycle has evolved, traditional cycle, we market, sell, service, which is a typical sales and marketing process, generate leads, close deals, service and support your customers. And the new cycle is completely different. It calls for a completely different mindset, where yes, we sell, but it's important that our products are adopted. We have to pay a very close attention to that. At the time of renewal, we retain the customers, we expand, and also expect our customers to advocate for us. So this cycle is a continuous cycle and very important in the new economy. We did some basic survey at the beginning of this year, and just before the pandemic started, on how SaaS product adoption is accelerating. And actually, these figures may be low. Actually, after the pandemic, it has grown further. So MAU, what we call is monthly users, right? Meaningful increase, more than 50%, 12%, experience growth of more than 50%. But 30% around, there was no change. I'll be showing you some insights on this survey later in the deck. Basically, customer success is essential now more than ever and going forward. That is what mantra I think we all have to do. Now, many people call it customer experience, but we basically evangelized the term customer success way back almost 8-9 years ago, and we think that's the way forward. And why? Basically, gone are the days when there were few competitors and long-term relationship drove sales, right? There were always someone new getting better. There is always someone new getting better, and the cost of switch continues to decline, which means buyers have power, and they look forward to their peers, others' advocacy to drive what to purchase. Similarly, it's not just enough to win a sale. If we are not focused on driving adoption, then your customers will look the other way, especially if they're not getting any ROI. They will always look the other way. This premium on user experience is only going to increase. And COVID has just brought acceleration to this, and the bar keeps getting higher. I would say COVID forced many companies to take a hard look at their software stack and cut products that are not delivering. At the same time, they're investing more in the products which are delivering. And that is one essential change which has come in. We believe, products which are delivering going forward, they will be the winners. Finally, new tools are enabling buyers to bring in so much data to renewal discussions. They're looking for adoption data, time to value benchmarks, and having those conversations very early in the cycle. And before you realize, we know our customers have now choices. We did a survey among our portfolio customers, including our investor portfolio companies in May. We usually do 2 surveys, and at that point in time, preventing churn and better churn forecasting, understanding product usage, and increasing product adoption, as you can see, were the top 4. Something which CEOs had on their mind. And when we talk about customer-driven metrics from the investors' perspective, investors are also looking at the same thing. If we demonstrate high net retention, in other words, negative churn, or we call it account expansion, private and public investors will reward you. So what you see here is a coefficient of determination in terms of account expansion. And this is a lead predictor indication for Series E valuations in SaaS company. On the other hand, this also demonstrates ability to serve customers over time, the TAM expansion and others. On the right side, you see, the enterprise value to revenue versus net retention, and it gives the same picture. The impact of NRR or valuation on public SaaS companies is just going to grow and continue to be in the focus. What it essentially means, in the past we thought CS is a role, but it's not actually. CS is a strategy which is essential to the whole organization. And some of the things as I said, CS is a strategy which is essential to the SaaS companies, and that is where 90% of the revenue is. There are some important, things, basic things which we want to do, and this is not. Most of it is common sense. What we should be doing is easy onboarding from sign up to setting up an account, as compared to the traditional model where there is an implementation cycle. So this is very key. Very early in the cycle, demonstrate ROI of the product, which we call it as time to value. Trial users to paid users. I think a lot of us have, subscription users who start as a trial users, but how quickly we convert them to paid users is very important. Continuous feedback and refine the strategy. This is, sending surveys, getting an NPS, and based on the feedback, how do we refine the strategy? And my colleague, I think later on will go deep into this. Drive adoption for expansion. It's always easier to expand into existing customer base than getting that new customer, so a lot of, because any new customers, there is an initial CAC and lifetime value we have to derive from that. Understanding customers' business is so critical, and building relationships. So unless we understand the customer's business, we cannot demonstrate the ROI of our products and product feedback itself. One of the playbook we always do is, we call it layer: land, adopt, expand, and renew, increasing revenue and reducing churn. Now, completely flipping, in order, when you do that, those are some of the playbooks, but what are the key customer success SaaS metrics we follow? Customer lifetime value, that is an estimation on average gross margin contribution of a customer over a lifetime, as we know. Churn rate, customer acquisition cost, and recurring revenue, ARR, MRR, or even we call gross retention ratio or net retention ratio. The health scores and the NPS. These are the most key metrics which we track, and I would say everyone would track. One important thing, the way forward is behavioral loyalty versus attitudinal. So to just give you maybe example, if you only have one grocery store in the town, you're going to exhibit behavior loyalty. You are a repeat customer because you don't have any other choices. So that is something, behavior loyalty. But now customers are more loyal because they love your product, they love your brand. So that is, shifting to attitudinal loyalty. And that is where, the customer success economy comes into play. It also drives growth. 10 laws which we always would like to exhibit or would like to advise. It's a top-down company-wide commitment. So it's not just one group which needs to do that. Also, the product market fit is important, because if we sell to because of a relationship, we can sell. But then if the product is not a right fit into the right market, they're immediately going to churn, and that's going to hurt at the time of churn. A typical tendency, what we have seen, is naturally towards churn. I would say when customers are using it, the initial thoughts are, okay, let's use it. Let us see if it works for us. We can always go back or go to other products. Customers expect success when they are using the products, which means, by using the product, are they experiencing higher retention or are they experiencing time to value? Some of the metrics I talked about, the ROIs. We need to measure and manage our customers. I just talked about some of the measurements and metrics which we should be using. And we can't just build loyalty through personal relationships. It has to be, we have to understand the customer's business. There has to be a playbook around that. Product always has to be a priority. I always would like to emphasize that the product usage, the usage data, and how the product is being adopted within your customers is very key. We talked about time to value already. Understand the details and churn and retention. Whenever there is a churn, it's important to understand why they have churned. There is so much learning which we get. So we typically, do have a complete, analysis on why a customer has churned, because they're always right. Please remember, customers are always right. They don't churn without any reason. So we have to understand those reasons and keep improving, and becomes metric driven. This is very key. Before customer success, we as a company or everyone, had many functions, and, we were working in harmony, nothing wrong in this, marketing to services to sales, finance, individual functions. And there were different kind of softwares we were using across them. But we believe, with customer success charter, it's, the whole company has to take this journey. It's not one organization or one department's goal here. I'll skip this. I want to go into the detailed survey and why customer success is more important than ever and going forward. As I said, we had surveyed, CEOs, CROs, and CCOs. It is late stage private cloud companies from Cloud 100 Forbes, and also public traded SaaS companies earlier this year. And there were 10 emerging results we got. Retention is topical, and we had almost 50% response rate here. This was very number one goal for most of the customers. Churn rates are going up. This is where I said the COVID acceleration has happened. And when I say COVID impact, this is not just due to COVID. Generally, the tendency is to consolidate and see which products are giving value, which are not. So around 3 percentage points, we found that there is a consensus that churn rates are going to go up. Churn rates will increase broadly, depending on when we talk about GRR and ARR. There will be, between the expected band and how they're more broad. If someone has 90 to 95% GRR, there could be a 3 percentage point reduction. Again, product stickiness can avoid this. That is why I said it's so important to focus on the product. SMB churn rates will go up the most because, if we have seen over the past 6 months, the SMB companies will take a close look at what products they are using and, only go for the products which are creating value. Churn will also come from downsell. So what happens is, churn is not just customer moving away. If you had a, let's say, $20,000 contract and at the time of renewal, it becomes 15, it's still a churn. We call it downsell. And there are many instances where customers do not go for full renewal or flat renewal, but churn will come from downsell. Vertically concentrated risk is a big risk. So the biggest weakness, as we say, is customers who are using your tool getting laid off in groups, because we have a sponsor, who drive our technology, and we have seen, right, in airlines, hospitality, this is a very big risk. So horizontally, we have to expand into the markets. Of course, it doesn't mean that every product can do that, but this is going to be a risk. Concessions are a hot topic. Every time there is a renewal, there will be a concession discussion on the annual contract value. I think I covered this. Nearly across all our portfolio customers, as well as peer groups, we saw that how to prevent churn is the most important factor in the boardroom today, in the management as well as in the boardroom. This is especially in the case of subscription economy. And all teams, almost everyone, expect the customer strategy to grow or at least remain flat in due course to come. So just giving you a one-slide view of which are probably the most important factors when we look at forward-looking pattern. We see this as the most important ones. And in these, so what to do, right? We talked about, ultimately there has to be a playbook. This playbook is dependent on your organization, your processes, but growth scale comes from these three-legged legs of the stool. The product can drive sales. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. So we are moving towards the end of the session. We still have 3 minutes to cover.
Yes, I'm almost done.
Thank you.
So the thing is, this is a cycle again where sales, customer success, product have to work very close together to drive the growth. And that is where you always want to be in the top right quadrant, happy, successful, drive growth and advocacy. And I think most people intuitively understand the left-hand side, but the idea is to be more towards going to the top quadrant. And That's all I have. Happy to take any questions you might be having.
Got it. Thank you, Anil. Thanks for the lovely presentation. So we do have one question from the audience. It is from Devesh Upadhyay. Devesh's question is about churn and how he relates churn with wrong selling. So
Yes.
how do you think the trend has changed before and after COVID when it comes to wrong selling and churn?
Yeah, so very clearly, first of all, wrong selling will eventually hurt us because, sales teams usually are able to sell because of the relationship they have built over the past, and once the products are getting used, there will be no adoption basically, and eventually they will churn, right?
Mm-hmm.
It hurts more in COVID times because every CFO will take a very close look at which products are really making an impact. And, sales quotas these days are different, in subscription economy. It's not just on sale. If there is no renewal over a period of time, we don't get the bonuses. So in COVID times, this is still very important.
Got it. Thank you, Anil. Thanks for clarifying. So we have arrived at the end of the session. Anil, thanks a lot for being there with us today at the first India 2020 conference. Thank you for celebrating SaaS with us. We will definitely have more sessions in future.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thanks.
Have a great rest.